I'm Deke, and this is my podcast, SideTrack'd. On today's episode, we're covering the action classic, Cliffhanger. Now, I'm super excited for this episode because it pretty much embodies everything that I'd want in a podcast. Movies can be a lot of things. They can be art, they can be a release, they can be a comfort, and sometimes they can just be a hell of a great time with a group of your closest friends. So please join me as Charlie, Brandon, Adam, and myself recollect our screening of Cliffhanger together, and stay tuned afterwards for my exclusive interview with star Leon as he discusses his experiences making one of the most unforgettable blockbusters of all time. As always, we speak our minds here on SideTrack'd, and there are major spoilers ahead. You have been warned.
They stole $100 million in midair and lost it. Now, to get it back,
recognize these locations?
they'll make one man a hostage
You're not going after him.
What have I got?
and the other a moving target. Cliffhanger, rated R. Starts Friday at a theater near you.
It's Stallone with no montages to lean on. It's Rooker before he was Walking Dead. And it's Rennie Harlan before he bankrupted an entire movie studio. Today, we deep dive into 1993's Oscar-nominated Cliffhanger. And joining me today is my own group of mountain men, Charlie Oshweed, Brandon Davis, and Adam Ferguson. Guys, how we doing today?
Awesome.
Great.
Doing well.
Good.
Thanks for asking. How are you?
I'm doing good, thank you. All right, so...
Well, I'm kind of on the edge about this movie.
And it begins. As the poster says, hang on. So just to give everyone a backstory to how we ended up on this podcast all together, a couple months ago before COVID, when we were all allowed to have friends and hang out, you guys came over for a screening of Cliffhanger, and I do actually have to thank Adam because I think possibly in maybe a joking manner, he had forwarded me the link to purchase Cliffhanger when he saw it announced on 4K Blu-ray. And I think that's when you and I kind of both discovered it's a guilty pleasure. It's a fucking good movie, whether you want to look at some of its shortcomings or not. It's actually a pretty fun blast of a movie. And so we ended up getting all four of us together. And I just want to kind of go over some initial thoughts. And I guess I will start with Brandon. So I know you were only probably like 3 years old when this came out in 1993.
I was.
So getting a young man's perspective and for seeing it for the first time, what were your initial thoughts seeing it?
I mean, it's just the ultimate 90s movie, and it's just, Stallone at that point in his career, had done a bunch of Rocky movies, Rambo movies. And, it's just like the ultimate Stallone movie. It's like you wouldn't expect anything less, and it's just, it's an awesome action movie that doesn't take itself too seriously, it's just a great time.
Yeah, and we don't take it seriously either. Charlie, what's your back history to this movie? Slow your roll. Charlie, what's your back history on Cliffhanger?
Probably rented it on VHS when it came out. I'm sure I didn't see it in the theater. I was probably like 13 when it came out.
Yeah.
But yeah, I remember seeing it at a younger age and just, I don't know, just loving the badass action movie.
And Adam, so the reason I want to end on you is because, again, us just sparked the conversation and just kind of jokingly sending some text back and forth like, no, this is actually going to happen. So, So what is the reason that even though jokingly around, like you texted to me, like, and we generally got excited about watching this together?
Right. Yeah. I got to be honest. When I saw the trailer the first time, I think it was actually in like a High Five Eyes or something. Does anybody remember that? I'm dating myself there big time. And I remember going, wow. And I thought, well, there's nobody talking during the trailer. And I thought that was so. And so,
yeah. It has the music.
It has the music like a Beethoven or something like that.
Dun, dun, dun. Yeah, something like that.
Yeah. And I was going, whoa, what is this?
Yeah.
So my sister and my sister's a year and a half younger than me, so we decided to go see it. And it was like, not opening night, so it was probably like a month or two, and there was nobody in this little podunk theater in Georgia somewhere, and we go in there and there's nobody in there, so we sit down. We're like, oh wow, we got the whole theater ourselves. Sit down and sit right in the middle, great seats. Cassie's like super excited because she's like kind of an action junkie, even though she's a little bit younger. Probably picked it up from me. and this man walks in, and I smell it. First, I was like, "What's that smell?" It's this brute, like Old Spice, Stetson type smell. And the whole theater's empty. He sits right next to me, and I'm going like, "What the hell is this?" Like, oh my gosh! And he stinks, and he's like, he keeps bumping me on accident. So I finally was just like, "I'm leaving. I'm gonna go sit a couple." But Cassie was like, my sister. She was like, "Well, I'm staying. The seats are great. Like, this is the best spot to watch the movie." Like, so she stayed there, and I had to like keep an eye on her and watch the movie. But it truly was one of my favorite action movies of that time period.
Yeah,
like hands down.
Yeah.
It's probably my top 3 favorite Stallone movies. He has like better movies and stuff, but personal. It's a personal thing. Like,
no, of course,
nostalgia.
And let's talk about that. This comes at a really weird point in Stallone's career. I mean, he, in my opinion, had like a real shit streak going on. I mean, he was going from Rocky V. He tried comedy, so he did Oscar, and then he did Stop or My Mom Will Shoot. And I mean, this was a really much needed movie for him. So much to the point where, I'm kind of jumping ahead, but he actually took like a huge pay cut. Like for certain stunts to happen, and I forget what it was, but they needed certain stuntmen to get paid like X amount of money, and he took like $2 million of his own money to help pay and bankroll this movie because he needed it. And this came at a really bad part of his career. I don't know if any you guys have seen Stop or My Mom Will Shoot or Oscar, and
love it.
All right, so they are.
No, actually, I did enjoy Oscar. It's kind of like on par with like Guilty Pleasure. It is really bad though, and the other one is not even watchable.
Well, I was a Golden Girls fan growing up, so I went and saw it for Estelle Getty, but regretted it soon after. But and then Rocky V has its own legend of terribleness. But are you guys familiar at all with Rennie Harlan? In my opinion, this is his best movie. I think the only thing he did that was kind of notable that American audiences would know him for is like Elm Street 4. Die Hard 2, I guess it might be arguably maybe his best movie, but I'm actually not a fan of that movie at all. I definitely think Cliffhanger. And then we'll get to
Long
this later
Kiss
on.
Goodnight, right?
Long Kiss Goodnight, which was written by Shane Black, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
Who did Kiss Kiss Bang Bang and Nice Guys.
Well, so wasn't he married to Gina Davis?
He did, and
Yes.
and it's funny you bring that up because I always say directors should never marry their leading women because their movies are terrible afterwards. If you look at the track record, like Luc Besson married Mila Jovovich, and then she went and married not P.T. Anderson. What am I drawing a blank on? The Resident Evil guy.
Paul Anderson.
Paul
That ain't P.T. Anderson.
Jesus Christ, man! Oh my God, yeah. But yeah, so then she went and married him and did all the Resident Evil movies, which are all terrible. And then Kate Beckinsale married the director of all the Underworld movies, and they're terrible too. So yeah, directors should definitely not marry their leading women. But Long Kiss Goodnight's watchable for some stuff, I guess. I mean, I haven't seen it in a while, but.
And then wasn't there a Cutthroat something? Did he do that one too?
Yeah, we can get into that now. So at the beginning of the movie, Carolco Pictures comes up, and again, Brandon, you're a little younger, but maybe more for Adam and Charlie. But growing up with Carolco, like these are the guys who did Terminator 2, and I mean, as a kid growing up, I mean, anytime you saw that logo coming up, you get that laser that just prints out the multiple C's on the screen. You knew you were in for a good movie with that company. They ended, and what they were most notorious for was being a very director-heavy production company, where they would just apparently the owner of that company would just throw mass amounts of money at his directors that he wanted to work with, and so that ended up backfiring because going into Cliffhanger, they were almost bankrupt, and so they ended up having to do a deal with TriStar Pictures, which is why now you see TriStar Pictures, and they own all the rights to this movie. It cost $60 million to do the movie. They made $250. This was a huge hit for Stallone. He had duds going into this, and it came out with $250. And Carolco made none of that money. They ended up having to pay back TriStar. They ended up having to pay back Studio Canal, which is now a company that does 4K restorations for this movie, in fact. And then they had to pay, and this is the first time that they did this, but Pioneer was getting into the home theater world, and they bankrolled like the last third of Cliffhanger, which, again, and I'm rambling here, which is what's going to happen on this podcast. But so when I was young and getting into home theaters, one of my first laser discs was a Pioneer owned.
What's a laser disc?
Yeah. So
I was supposed to ask that question.
Sorry, Brandon. That was my Brandon voice.
Yeah, that's what everyone asked. But yeah, so back when Laserdisc used to separate the men from the boys on what was like real movies, and the first time you could see movies in a letterbox format and get a director's commentary and special editions and this and that. But yeah, Pioneer bought the 1/3 of the share, and so when they made $250 million on this movie, they took home nothing, and they ended up going bankrupt the very next movie with Cutthroat Island. So after Rennie Harlin had done such a good job with Cliffhanger, they hired him again for Cutthroat Island, and that was the movie. It was the biggest flop of all time. I'd have to look up some of the numbers, but Cutthroat Island is notorious.
That makes me want to watch it.
Oh it's legendarily biggest bomb of box office bomb up until its date.
Right.
Yeah.
I had read that that Michael Douglas was supposed to be in Cutthroat and dropped out.
Yeah.
I think it was Michael Douglas.
Yeah.
And then I can't even remember who they ended up casting, but then it just couldn't recover.
Well, it's Joker from Matthew Modine.
Matthew Modine?
Yeah.
God.
From Full Metal Jacket.
I never saw the movie. I just remember seeing the trailer, and my dad was like, "No, we're not going to see this."
Yeah, it's a piece of shit for sure, but it's notorious for being, up until its date, the biggest box office bomb of all time.
And you're like, "That's why I got this tattoo."
Yeah, exactly. So I'll ask you guys all together on this. I'm sure you guys are familiar enough with Stallone, but do you feel like this movie is missing montages? Is it any worse or any better without the famous Stallone montages?
I don't know where one would have fit in it.
Yeah.
He can squeeze them in. I'll give you an example. If he can somehow, I remember thinking going into this movie, the's no way he can get topless because he he shows off his physique in every fucking movie. And I remember seeing the trailer like, well, it looks like he's up in the Alps. It turned out it was supposed to be up in Colorado. They shot it in the Italian Alps, which is why it looks nothing like Colorado. But that's why it's like the most beautiful looking Stallone movie ever.
Yeah.
But yeah, I remember like halfway through the movie, he somehow managed to get topless again, and I'm like, here he goes again. Like he knows to do it. Yeah, I think he actually does.
He's like, force me to take my shirt off. Brilliant.
Yeah, I think he actually does like an underwater scene, which should be freezing temperatures, and he's swimming like topless or something like that, if I remember. So
I love that cabin though that he's at when she's brushing the horses. Let me tell you, when I saw that when I was a kid, I was like, oh my god, I gotta go to a cabin.
Yeah.
I gotta go to Colorado and go skiing and go live there. I need to do this. It looks amazing.
Yeah, he's got a cool place.
Cool place. And then that truck, Charlie, I was like, oh man, Charlie would love that truck. the little Bronco he has. And those cool guys with the snowboarder guys, man.
Yeah, I was gonna bring those guys up. I mean, so we can definitely get into that. But it's like
I have 2 words. Mountain Dew is all I can think about.
Yeah, exactly. The very first thing they do is so funny because as Stallone's driving by, the one guy who's not in Drugstore Cowboy, the other guy, but the long hair one, he's like, "Hey, it's Gabe. Hey, Gabe. Hey, Gabe." He says Gabe like 17 times. I'm like, oh my god.
Gabe! Hey man, Gabe! It's Gabe, he's back! Hey Gabe! Come on man, let's go!
So just speaking about that, have you paid attention to Janine Turner throughout the film? And just listen to her dialogue and like I just can only imagine what Rennie Harlin was saying to her and saying like, okay, just say, what's up, over and over. Like, what's the matter? Oh, give me more. Keep asking. Like, or when he's running at one point and she goes, run! And it's like, yeah, okay. Yeah, he's running. He's running from a helicopter.
So I'm sure you guys all did the same, but I did another screening. I definitely missed you guys for sure. But I did another screening this week, and it was so funny because later on in the movie, the blonde villain, Crystal, the female, she makes the fake walkie-talkie phone call in, and I remember thinking that was such a cool part and cool scene. Like, oh man, that's a good way to trick them and shit. I thought that was really cool. At one point, she goes, "Well, what's your location?"
Rocky Mountain Rescue, come in.
Oh, thank God. We're stranded. We were hiking and lost our bearings. We didn't expect the weather to come in this fast.
Okay, just take it easy. Take it easy. How many people in your party? Over.
5 people. I don't know where we are. I see only a cylinder-type rock formation. Over.
It's got to become left.
Oh, that's definitely Cone's Bluff, and I'm thinking, it's a whole fucking park. She gave the most generic description of movie history, and she was able to pinpoint it like that.
No one's that good at their job.
Yeah, no,
but
but
the territory, man.
Yeah.
Born and raised.
The movie obviously is going to have some shortcomings. There's, there's things that you can laugh about with the movie, and I get that, and that's half the part of the charm of the movie. But the villains are fucking vile in this movie. Vile in this
and there's
movie.
a lot of them.
Yeah.
There's a lot of them. It's, you've got like 4 really top, not 5, like if you think of Crystal, but like Leon, Delmar, Quaylen, is it Travis or Trevor? Travers. And they don't do villains like that anymore.
They don't.
In movies.
They don't.
And
they're so bad that they argue with themselves. They just constantly argue with each other. Like, but Brandon, like for you being your first time watching this, like, do you feel like the villains did deliver?
Oh yeah, I thought the best, like the perfect, as goofy as some of the one-liners are and stuff. Lithgow actually has a line in the movie where he references that he doesn't underestimate the power of loyalty when it comes naturally, not like the kind that has to be paid for.
Yeah.
And that's like kind of the perfect definition of these villains. They're like loyal to the mission, not each other, kind of thing. And I think they kind of like represent that kind of perfectly.
Yeah.
And you brought up the example of like Kenneth, Leon's character, when he kind of grabs Delmar and like talks about like making his mouth bigger and stuff. And it's just besides the the goofy, awesome 90s one-liners, they are actually like evil dudes, at their heart, and they all kind of go fittingly,
But it's cool thinking like, okay, Stallone's really got to deal with all these guys, essentially. Like, it's like, when I saw it in theaters, I was like, oh my God, these guys it's him against all these guys, all these bad guys.
When I knew what we were in for some good villains is the guy that Rex Lynn plays. Like his first introduction when they lose the cases. This is maybe a couple minutes into the movie, and it's the cases. There's a really awesome stunt that we're going to get into later on, but there's a stunt where they're exchanging suitcases on like a tethered line between 2 airplanes, and the line breaks, and I mean that dude just goes on a rant of F-bombs, just like F this.
Cable's gone free. Don't unhook it. The cases are still there. Don't lose your money, goddammit! Hold it. Pull the cable! We gotta pull. Bypass switch 1. Check. Bypass switch 2. Check. All right, keep pulling. Nothing. No indication. Okay, switch to manual. Hold the fucking plane steady! Pull! Come on! Move, Jeff! Fuck it up! How's number 1 engine? Oil pressure falling. Come on! Don't lose your money! They're coming. Oh, god damn it! Shit! They've lost them. Oh, fuck!
And I remember thinking, "Oh, okay, we're in a Stallone movie where I mean, this is like a Dave Chappelle comedy show. Like this has like some horrible language in it, and then the killings are pretty brutal. But yeah, man, I mean that's."
I'd like to go back and count how many times Travers says, "God damn."
Yeah. Oh
He's
yeah.
Like, God damn it! God damn it! He just keeps saying, "God damn."
He's so great.
God damn! God damn! He just kept going. I was like, "Whoa!" Yeah. And I just finished it. just now, and I was going, "Man." I need to go back and count how many, because it's just an insane amount. Anytime
he's talking to Lithgow's character, he has a resonance in his voice. He just has a gruffness to it, and he just quailing, and he's just like screaming and yelling. But yeah, like every other word out of his mouth is an F-bomb, and I knew, I was like, man, these guys are gonna be like some hard knock motherfuckers to get past, man. Like they were there to do some business. I got to be honest with you. I honestly feel like this is Lithgow's best part.
Oh man,
I know there's going to be
so over the top and so awesome,
dude. I love it though.
Best.
I love it.
Yeah. He had to eat it up. I mean, if I was like, he's like isn't he like a theater actor? Like he comes from like a high like royalty, whatnot. Like, and he's probably eating this up, going like, oh man, I get to really add some.
Yeah. I think this is his best role. I know some people will be, Buckaroo Banzai fans will be disappointed I said that, and I know there's some Dexter season 4 fans that are gonna be upset. But
I'm gonna go with Harry and the Hendersons.
Third Rock from the Sun.
I was wondering if he's gonna find Harry up in those mountains.
God,
But
I loved Harry and the Hendersons as a kid.
yeah, so did I. Man, that broke my heart when he had to like
Get out of here.
Like,
Whoa!
Yes.
Spoilers!
Don't worry, I'll do a little prompt at the beginning, but which movies we ruined. But yeah, man, what kid didn't cry when he had to like kick Bigfoot into the woods? That was a sad movie. But yeah, no, this is in my opinion, this is definitely Lithgow's best movie. So I don't know if you guys know this, but he was actually like a last minute step in. Christopher Walken was actually originally supposed to play the role. And if you think about it, like, don't get me wrong. Again, I still say Lithgow did like an amazing job, but to think like what Christopher Walken would do in that role,
I would have been a different movie.
It leaves me curious. It would have been cool though. I mean,
yeah. He almost delivers his lines like Walken.
Yeah.
There's certain pauses, certain cadences. It's
Yeah.
like, oh, this is interesting.
Yeah, I mean, if you guys are familiar with the View to a Kill, the Bond movie, and just how over the top and hammy he can play with roles, I do have to say one more thing about Lithgow before we move on to some more of the villains. He was nominated for a Razzie for this role, which I really think was undeserved. He lost it to Woody Harrelson for Indecent Proposal, but I just wanted to at least mention that
both should have been Oscar nominated.
I'll pay $1 million for your wife. That was such a weird trailer.
$100 million.
Yeah. Oh, is that what it was?
No. I was thinking. I was trying to mix them.
Oh yeah. I didn't know what the going rate for Demi Moore was. But yeah. No. Yeah. I just wanted to make sure you guys were on the same page with me with the villains, because for me, that's really like the drawing part of this movie. This is what's brought me back every single time. Anytime I've had to defend this movie, I've always stood by the villains. I think Kinnett, I think the ass kicking that he gives Stallone, possibly in my opinion, I think that's one of my favorite Stallone scenes. But
and then what does he say to him? You hit like a sissy or something like that.
Yeah.
Well, I remember as a kid, like, he's coming at him with like a mouthful of bloody teeth, bloody chiclets, and every single time Stallone answers, he backhands him with like these brass knuckles. He was doing like these karate chops, but at the same time, it looked like he was doing all his own stunts. Like he was doing like some roundhouse high kicks, and I was like, damn, dude, this is like some serious shit. Right. And then like even like later on, like getting off that fight, but dude, there's a scene later on where Lithgow has his foot on Rooker's neck, and I was like, man, this is like,
and
this
that's
is some
when he's
hardcore
like,
shit.
that's when he's going like Frank, right.
Yeah.
So like, if you think about it, they shoot the kids, the snowboarder guys, the Mountain Dew boys, and then they shoot Frank.
And if we're going on and on about all the characters that the villains killed, we got to talk about Crystal. If you don't know what pure evil is, have the main villain shoot his own girlfriend as his like backup plan. Like, well, now you can't get out of here without me. Like, that's some fucked up shit.
That line leading up to that, you know what real love is, Crystal? Sacrifice. And then
dude.
Awesome.
He ends the scene by flipping his dead corpse girlfriend who just died a half a second ago, and blood goes flying into the air. The villains feel like they're in like an actual real, like almost like a David Fincher 7 movie or something. I feel like these are like these guys. Some of these guys just take on like John Doe or something. Like they feel like real villains,
Yeah,
but
like Con Air.
Yeah, again, that movie I believe holds the record for most keys already in the ignition of the takeoff vehicles. Like every single time they go to an abandoned like airstrip and like everything's still fully like there's dust settled everywhere and all the airplanes and vehicles have like full tanks of gas and keys in it. Yeah. And then like later on, I've only seen the movie once, so I'll never forget like Nick Cage out of nowhere like jumps on a police motorcycle that apparently they just leave the keys on, and that's how he gets like he's like running to save somebody with that. I don't know what the fuck. It was crazy.
You were talking about sacrifice, Brandon, and I was thinking, okay, you were asking like, oh, what are your favorite lines and whatnot? And my favorite is fetch.
Yeah, fetch.
Oh, although I think Travers says fetch.
Well, yeah, Travers does. Yeah,
Travers
he screams it in Stallone's face.
Yeah. I feel like whoever wrote this, I'm like, oh my god, it must have been so much fun to write this. Like, even these one little words, and to have these kind of actors, even though they're not like, I know Travers has been around before he's done some other stuff, but like to have Lithgow and those actors do these lines, and just deliver them with such gusto. It's pretty fantastic.
I can't agree more. You know, that exact line you're talking about. The guy's name is Rex Linn. I don't really remember him from much. I do remember, if you remember that, Adam, you may have seen this, and Brandon, if you have not seen this, I highly recommend this movie. It's called Breakdown with Kurt Russell.
Yes,
and the wife from Apollo 13, and I fucking love it. It's a
very anger-inducing film, but like. It's just really good.
It's awesome, and I mean, it proves once again that Kurt Russell has had a very steady string of like consistent, like good movies and fun movies to watch. But anyways, check that movie out. But he plays a sheriff in that movie, and that's really all I remember from. But
wait, Brandon, have you seen it?
Yeah, have you seen Breakdown?
No, Breakdown, no.
Hey, let's break down now. Watch break.
All right, I'm gonna hit pause on this, and we'll come back. Definitely Breakdown. You should check out. But man, when Rex Linn like gets right in Stallone's face, he says "fetch," and then when he doesn't move and he just stands there and he's like within inches, like literally, and he's just staring him down. And I remember thinking, that actor has got a set of testicles on him. He's like sitting there and he's not budging. And he does that with Lithgow and he does that with Stallone. He does that with Rooker. I mean, like, he doesn't take any shit. I really like that actor, and I wish I would have seen him in more stuff. But yeah, he gets like right in that dude's face, man.
I think he's like, he like crushes it in this film.
I agree.
Overall, like, I'm going, man, he's holding his own with everybody. He's got a lot of balls he's juggling, just constantly like, oh my gosh.
Yeah. And I would say, as far as villains go, not that this matters in this movie, but I would say he has the most kind of an arc. But in the beginning, you don't know what's going on, and you don't know who's good and who's bad. And I will say, if you guys remember the beginning of the movie, there's kind of like a secret plant official guy gets put on the money plane. And the guy that they hired to be the undercover FBI agent, who turns out to be the good guy, he has this face where he has like these and this comes from another man with saggy bags as myself, but he has like these really saggy, weird, like baggy eyes, and he looks like he's played a villain in a million movies. So I honestly, the first time I saw the movie, assumed he was the bad guy. So when the guy who plays Travers like turns out to be the one hijacking the airplane, I gotta say that kind of threw me for a loop. But
as far as plot twists go, that's probably about the only one in the movie. But
maybe that's where the montage could have gone.
I think you're right though. Travers actually has a little bit of dimension to the actual.
Yeah, because he goes from undercover to he's stuck in this business deal, and he's sneaky because he comes over first before the bags of money does, which was a great move on his part. And then once the plane loses all the money, then crashes and everything else that fucking happens, like he gets stuck in this business deal where he probably would have rather have just maybe done it via phone. And now he's stuck in the Colorado mountains, like having to deal with these jerks that want to kill him if he ever fell asleep or, let his guard down and punched in a code for the GPS thing and left it open or something. I mean, they would have slit his throat in a heartbeat. So I would say he's probably in the worst spot out of all the villains. The other ones are just trying to get the money so they can, buy like passports to get out of the country. He's really in a fucking bad situation.
Hey, when I was a kid, I thought that the way that they get the money and have the planes. Let me tell you, when I was watching it in the theater, I was losing. I thought this was incredible. I thought it was super original, and I just started thinking about something. Do you wonder if like Dark Knight Rises took something?
Cliffhanger is in the Guinness Book of World Records for the costliest aerial stunt ever performed. Stuntman Simon Crane was paid $1 million to perform the aerial transfer scene where he crossed between two planes at an altitude of 15,000 feet. And I remember seeing that in the theater, just like you, and thinking, well, they're not faking that. That's really someone going between two airplanes. And that's some, between that.
So they couldn't separate. Like, think about it. They couldn't have separated because he would have broke the wire.
I will guiltily say that I listened to the commentary with Rennie Harlan, but yeah, he talked about that and a lot of the opening shots where Stallone is legit hanging from some cliffs, and they really wanted that to be the opening of the movie.
Awesome.
And this movie does have some pretty badass stunts. I will tell you that on some unfortunate news, stunt double Wolfgang Gulich, with the two weird periods over the L or over the U, died a few days after filming. Gulag, is that what it is?
It's an umlaut.
Oh, gotcha. Thank you, Charlie. Thank you, Charlie Oshweed. The stuntman for Stallone, who did most of the climbing scenes in this movie, he died only a couple days later after this movie. Driving home, he fell asleep. I feel like,
man.
So if you look him up in the Guinness Book of World Records, he has like all these like records he holds, death-defying things that he did on mountains, and then he apparently he was doing an interview. and fell asleep on the drive home a couple days after Cliffhanger, and that's why if you see at the end credits, the movie's dedicated to him, and it's because of that. So.
That's awesome. At least it's dedicated.
It is awesome, but unfortunately awesome.
Yeah. Make sure you get your rest, everyone. 8 hours of sleep.
You kids out there, all you want to be stunt doubles. So before that, the guy with the big baggy eyes, he dies. He's shooting at the other airplane with an Uzi, and I think that's a little over top.
Oh, it's awesome! It's awesome.
It's not a '90s action movie without an Uzi.
Hey, and Over the Top is another one of his.
Oh yeah, exactly. I can do a whole other podcast about Over the Top, man. Anytime you have a movie where child custody decided over arm wrestling matches, that's a good plot right there. But I was wondering what you guys thought the wind velocity curve on bullets traveling on airplanes they shoot. Like I can only imagine it was almost kind of like peeing in the wind, just like seeing those bullets like do like a hard like U-turn and trying to hit that airplane. I just thought that when I was watching it this past week, like thinking.
In the comedy version of this movie, those bullets actually hit another airplane that's like way behind them.
Yeah, they hit Nolan in the Dark Knight plane trying to copy.
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys know this, but again, this movie was like a huge hit. It made $250 million. They wanted to do a sequel to this movie.
Just pluralized with cliffhangers.
Yeah, like Alien and Aliens. Yeah, there's more cliffs to hang off of. But
hangers. Oh, this is plural.
What's that dude from Boogie Nights where he's like, oh, they spelled my name wrong on the marquee. They get the S wrong.
Yeah. Wait, who is that?
That was Louise Guzman, right?
Louise Guzman, yeah. He's like Jackie. Yeah.
But they were gonna do a sequel, and it was called The Dam, and they were gonna have Stallone stopping terrorists at the Hoover Dam.
Interesting. I've been there. I can't imagine that being that great.
Yeah, I know.
He'd be hanging off of it at some point.
Yeah,
with his shirt off.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. With his shirt off.
Yeah.
Do you guys have a favorite kill in this movie?
The girlfriend.
Yeah, that's the one I notated.
Shocking! It's so shocking.
Yeah. I got to say the obvious choice for me is when Kinnett dies. Anytime you can shove a dude through an ice pick hanging above you, that's a pretty badass kill. But the guy who they slide down the mountain together and he jams his face into the snow. Yeah. I remember thinking like, man, anytime someone's like, just put a snowball up against my face and just kind of did like a half grinded thing, I remember thinking, well, that hurts. So that I can only imagine just having your face plowed into like snow going 10 miles per hour.
Did that happen?
Well, down here in Florida, yeah, pretty often.
Man, every time somebody does that to me, man, it hurts a little bit. Yeah, no. When I was a kid, he's sliding down and he pushes his face in that thing. I was like, no, that's
I'm happy they included like the cut up face like right before he died, and I was just like, man, it just added. I mean, you think they're just like down the hill and falls on the cliff. At that moment, you see that shot of all that blood and his scratched up face. You're like, damn, that one was pretty awesome.
Yeah, and again, I think in his later career, I think Stallone has gotten a little more violent. I would definitely say that the last two Rambo movies, especially the fourth one, was like a gore fest. If you haven't seen that, but I would say back then, I don't remember him doing this type of violence in his movies. So I remember, again, a guy getting his entire face shredded off, the girlfriend killing, and some of the other just like real amounts of violence in this movie. I thought was pretty hardcore.
I think ultimately for me, like I didn't like seeing Frank die, but like he was such a nice guy. Like, man,
I'm an artist.
He's got so much life ahead of him.
Hey, did you guys notice this time? I'm sure you guys all watched it recently. But did you guys notice that every single time they take a bullet shot in this movie, it's in slow motion, which is very 90s. But I don't know if you noticed that.
Yeah, especially the one I remember the most is the one where the snowboarders are running.
Yeah,
that's like your ultimate one. But there's also the really great slow motion scene at the end, and it's a great shot. It's the one where Lithgow's in the helicopter.
Mm-hmm.
Although quote unquote Lithgow, if you look closely, it's obviously not him flying the helicopter. But and he's thinking about throwing the money, and there's that great shot where it's lifting up a little bit. It's in slow motion. It's just fantastic.
Yeah, I agree. That goes back to something I was going to ask earlier. So if you guys were in Stallone's place, the first time he throws a suitcase down the mountain at them, would you do that? Or would you try to somehow clip it on your belt and still try to climb up the mountain? I mean, I think that's I remember the first time I saw it, I was like, dude, what are you doing? You're tossing away like 33 mil. What's the fuck, man? But then later on, I saw he was trying to like scale up a mountain and stuff. So, would you try?
I was under the impression tossing that money made it seem like he went down the hill too.
Oh, maybe.
It's like you toss that cash.
Maybe.
You give the impression like, oh, he must have fell off somewhere. I don't know.
Yeah,
That's
no, you're probably right. But I remember seeing.
But could you have done it though? That's the question.
Yeah.
Could you have done it? It's $100 million.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have made it up the mountain in the first place, so it wouldn't have mattered.
Yeah.
I would have grabbed a few $100 and just stuffed it in my pants, and then just put the rest there.
If I lived the life that Stallone was living in that movie, I wouldn't need any money. So,
yeah.
Got a cool cabin.
Yeah.
Does he have a dog? He probably has a cool dog too.
There's a dog at the cabin. Yeah.
Yeah, he's got a cool dog.
I forget.
Yeah, right there.
Yeah, they obviously don't take care of it very well because they're all dealing with these poor dogs stuck in that cabin for days.
It's so cool. It can take care of itself.
Yeah, the dog's in the movie for about 10 seconds. Yeah.
Yeah, he leaves for like 8 months, so hopefully someone's taking care of that dog.
Yeah.
You got one of those Doc Brown dog feeding machines.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, like what do they call it? Where you? Oh God, why am I drawing a blank on like when they have the fancy contraptions? They did in Goonies too. Rube Goldberg.
Rube Goldberg.
Yeah. Yeah, he set up like 8 years worth of bowling balls to like come down and feed the dog or something. So I mentioned in the opening, but this movie is an Oscar-nominated film. As funny as that is,
yeah, 3 times.
Yeah, 3 times nominated, lost.
The big never had any doubt.
Charlie's a true
best
believer.
Picture, best director, and best actor.
I stand by Lithgow. Probably should deserve one. But it did get nominated for visual effects. It did not stand a chance because '93, as we all know, was the year that Jurassic Park came out. So no one stood a chance that year, obviously. But I did. For podcasting purposes, I will mention that Charlie is holding up the Jurassic Park shirt that he's currently wearing. So since you can't see that, but I just wanted to at least mention that. Do you guys have a favorite line in the movie? I mean, that's what kind of the movie's known for. Do you guys have a favorite line?
I personally love the season's over asshole when Delmar is kicking the shit out of Rooker up there, and he's doing all these sports references, and he's like, "Oh, that's a penalty kick," and he's just beating the shit out of him, and then Rooker stabs him in the leg, and he's just like, "Season's over, asshole!" And he like shoots him with the shotgun he pulled off his back, and it's awesome.
Going back to Brandon's, I got to tell you, Rooker's man, he had some comebacks too. Like, wasn't he like, "I'll be dead soon, but you'll always be an asshole" or something like that?
He says after going back to the thing with the guy that's sliding down the hill with the snow face and falls off the cliff, he looks, I think, at Delmar and says, "Gravity's a bitch," stuff like that.
I love the '90s, man. I love that you can get away with bad lines like that.
The one thing where when he's on when Lithgow Quaylen's driving flying the helicopter and then he says, "You resilient bastard."
Yeah.
That's a fucking great line.
Why did he have a British accent in this movie? That was weird.
Lithgow's not British, is he?
No, he's not British.
He's Australian.
Is he?
That's not true.
No, I was like, what? I missed that in all my research. That was weird.
I also love my favorite line is, "Yeah, and I must admit you're a real piece of shit."
Yeah.
Like, what a great retort.
I got to tell you though, I think it's like the second to last line, and it's weird that they kind of let Rooker be the last one speaking in the movie, since it's like so much of a Stallone marquee movie. But Rooker has the last line, and one of his last lines, it's kind of a dickhead thing to say, but he's talking to the FBI agent guy.
"This is Agent Wright. Copy?"
Yeah, copy.
"Please identify yourselves. Over."
Yeah, this is Hal Tucker, Rocky Mountain Rescue. Hey, we're glad to see you guys. If you're looking for Mr. Quaylen, try about 4,000 feet south of here. He'll be the one wearing a helicopter.
I remember thinking, man, that's kind of a cool last line to go out on right before the credits. I was like, it's kind of an asshole line, but it's cool.
I was gonna say, what's cool is seeing them in the Guardians of the Galaxy
with Stallone.
Yeah, both of them together.
Yeah, little Cliffhanger reunion.
pretty kick-ass. I was like, when I saw that, I was like, oh my God, Cliffhanger.
Yeah.
Everybody was like, shut up.
I had a great time watching this movie with you guys. You know, I mean, it's the kind of movie, lumps and bruises and all. It's a fun-ass movie to watch, and it's definitely, if nothing else, if you're going to like have some friends over, drink some beers, I think this is like a great movie to watch, and I can't thank you guys enough for the experience we had, like, you know, unfortunately a year ago. I miss all you guys, and it sucks we can't hang out now that COVID is around, but hopefully in the future we can watch more fun movies like this and have a fun time like this. But I just want to get you guys' take, starting with Charlie. Would you recommend this movie to other people?
100%.
True believer.
Yeah, I mean, it's so fun. It's just, man, just a great movie to watch.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, totally.
Yeah, like we said before, you can't take it too seriously, but man, it's such a snapshot of action movies of that time.
Yeah, exactly. Brandon, again, it was your first time watching it when we watched it, and I know you've seen it a couple times since. Would you recommend this to other people?
Absolutely. It's disappointing. It's like it took me that long to watch it, but I think for a first viewing, that was like the perfect setting. You know, getting to watch it with three friends, and just basically be in awe of the awesome action, but also like kind of how funny it was at moments, and just again, like Charlie said, not taking it too seriously. So, yeah, no, absolutely.
Before I pass it on to Adam, I do have to say, Brandon, you're always a fun person to watch movies with, but man, I got to tell you, man, watching Cliffhanger with you was a blast, because you
100%.
were screaming at the screen, and for me to kind of like vicariously live through you, I mean, when there's some stuff in there that Lithgow's doing, and you were just like at that time, and you have a very deep voice, and you were just at the top of your lungs, like like screaming, and I was like, man, I'm having as much fucking fun watching him watch the movie, and there's nothing worse than watching a movie with boring people, but yeah, you were so into it, and it's so rare these days that people like actually like are able to kind of like show how much fun they're having. I think people are too reserved watching movies these days, so I just wanted to thank you for that. It was awesome watching Cliffhanger with you. You were so animated, and I loved it.
Thanks for buying the 4K version,
dude.
Me over.
And that leads me to Adam again. Adam, I can't thank you enough for the suggestion. I had a great time.
Yeah,
would you recommend this movie to other people? You have to me, but would you recommend it to other people?
Of course. I will say that when Brandon leaned over at the end of the movie, he goes, "Man, that movie was awesome." Like, that was just like one of the highlights of that night. I was like, oh my God, it's really incredible, like seeing the reaction of someone who has never seen this before and feeling the same way about it. It's a masterpiece in the sense of, it's not an A+ Oscar winning kind of film, but God damn, it's so fucking good to watch.
Yeah.
And it's just so much fun. I will say this, at the 10-minute 31 mark, if you pause it with Frank, make sure Frank's in the screen, it looks like he's happy, and it looks like he's laughing, and it looks like he's very excited to see. Wait, who's the woman who falls? Sarah?
Oh, that's Sarah.
Sarah.
Okay,
Sarah.
okay.
I said, okay,
I know exactly what you're talking about.
I know exactly what you're talking about, too.
100%. If you pause it, 10:31, 10:32, he's like, ooh, she's gonna fall.
You don't need to pause it. You can watch that whole scene, and his eyes, like, I just recently watched Total Recall, and when the oxygen goes out and their eyes are like bugging out, it's on par with what Frank is doing naturally with his own eyeballs. And I'm like, holy
Frank is
shit.
so excited. He's like, dinner.
Yeah, exactly.
No, I definitely.
No, I'm glad you brought that point up. That's funny. That's awesome.
Yeah.
All right. So I'll say my final thoughts, guys. Again, I absolutely love this movie. Again, just like everyone else just said on this podcast, you can't take it too serious. I would definitely say if you're a Stallone fan, which I was growing up, one thing we didn't talk about this, and I will really lightly touch on this. I do have to give the guy credit. He has stayed, Stallone again, he has stayed, I would say, relevant for the majority of his life. And I don't really, and I can't say this about many other actors. And to start when he started in his career and still in his, I think he's in his 70s, and he's still doing physical roles and staying relevant. And like you said, Guardians of the Galaxy 2, and whether I liked the new Rambo or not, which I did not, he is still putting out, in the theater, people want to go see blockbuster type movies. And I do have to give the guy credit. again, some dips in his movie career, as we mentioned, but he has stayed somewhat relevant, and he is the definition of what the word movie star means. And I have to give him credit, and I have to say, if you're a Stallone fan or whatever, if you just want to see like a fun 93 movie and kind of understand where action movies were in that type of time era, and if you don't want to see it for any of those reasons, you just want to hang out with four good friends and watch it and scream and drink and have a good time, I can't recommend this movie enough. And I had a great time watching it with these guys, and I can't recommend enough. So, guys, thank you so much for joining me on the podcast. I really appreciate it. I miss you all. Thank you so much for stopping by.
Thanks, buddy.
Thanks. Thank you.
Today, I am honored to be joined by the brass-knuckled badass of Cliffhanger himself. Leon, how you doing today?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good, sir. Very good, actually. My first question I had for you, when you were at the premiere, what was it like to see audiences' reactions to a character you're obviously having so much fun portraying?
It was fun. It's always fun to see a packed crowd really react to a movie that you're in, and to you and your character. It's what it's all about.
Mm-hmm.
Really. I train on the stage. I'm a stage actor, so I'm used to. It's always to have that. That's what we miss in in the movies and television is having that audience. But the closest thing we can get to it is actually being at a screening where there are enough, non-industry people there to really keep you engaged and how it's resonating.
Yeah, I just, some of your other bigger roles, like you've done comedies like Cool Runnings, and you've done more serious stuff like Five Heartbeats and stuff. But, something like Cliffhanger, where you're just being so good at being so bad. I was just wondering if that was how much fun that was to just be in the same seats as a popcorn movie as everyone else and just enjoying everyone's reaction to that stuff.
Yeah, whenever you're playing a bad guy, a villain of any sort, it's like that. It's usually a lot of fun, especially in an action movie.
Mm-hmm.
It to chew up a lot of scenery.
Yeah.
So and it's also just more of a flashy role.
Yeah.
So it's I think a lot of people, some of their best roles have been that of the antagonist.
I agree. Originally, Christopher Walken was cast to play Quaylen. When you were brought onto the project, were you molding your performance to play off of what you thought Walken was going to bring to the film? And if so, what changes did you make based on Lithgow's acting?
There were really no changes for me.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, in actuality, I actually they had actually considered me a bit for that role.
Really?
After I cast for Connect. But that wouldn't have been right. I wasn't old enough to play that role. But maybe Wendy was impressed with meeting me the first time. So,
mm-hmm.
But no, it didn't really matter because for the most part, when you're playing against an actor, regardless of who the actor is, you're just going to react to that person and what they're bringing.
Mm-hmm.
And John Lithgow is just amazing on all fronts in every way.
Yeah, the two of you together. I mean, you guys killed it.
Very interesting choice.
Yeah.
So I think if you think Christopher Walken, I think right away you would have saw on his face, what was going on. But John, he bought it. It's not on his face. He doesn't have the face of a menacing man.
Yeah.
And he's just a great actor. It was a lot of fun to be around as well.
How did the climate and temperatures and shooting on such gorgeous locations impact your ability to do your job?
Well, it was freezing, and actually we weren't there as long as we planned on it because they were having problems. The cameras were freezing.
Oh, no way!
Yeah, and so we wound up going back to Rome to shoot a earlier than expected.
I know they do a pretty good job of like kind of mixing up what pieces were set pieces versus like real life locations. But I mean, some of those like wide shots where you can definitely tell you guys are on location are just breathtaking, just absolutely gorgeous. So I was just wondering what it was like to shoot in that.
In Italy.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're fantastic.
Yeah, that's a good gig, minus the freezing. Your tussle with Craig Fairbrass's character, Delmar, that was pretty brutal, and it ended with a precisely landed knife in his mouth. How much time did you guys have for rehearsal on that type of sequence?
I don't really remember, to be honest with you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't remember. I remember more of, of course, of how much time and everything I had to do that fight with Stallone.
Yeah.
And I don't how much rehearsal we had with that.
That's like real precision stuff, and to go through a sequence like that and it just really like hit your marks as far as fighting and stuff. I don't. Do you have a background where you're able to do fight sequences and stuff like that? Because I mean, back to the thing you just brought up with the Stallone fight, that's my favorite sequence in the whole movie. And, as far as I'm concerned, that's one of the best ass kickings Stallone's ever had in his career. And so, I was going to ask, I mean, you destroyed him in that fight sequence.
I know. I said I needed to shut my mouth is what I needed. Okay. I talked too much.
Oh, no. See, one of my favorite parts of that sequence is how you constantly have like blood in your teeth, and I mean, I'm just terrified of you. Basically the entire movie, I'm terrified of you, but definitely in that sequence when you're just going off on him, and you just have like drools of blood coming from your mouth. How much of that sequence was you? Did you have a stunt double? I mean, it looked.
Yeah. We always have stunt doubles after because for the studio.
Mm-hmm.
But I had to learn everything that he did.
Yeah.
So and usually they try to use you as much as possible.
Mm-hmm.
So it got delayed, the fight scene, because the morning it was supposed to happen. I got up really early because I was excited. We're gonna fight Stallone. I just get up out of bed and start going through some moves,
mm-hmm.
and I wind up activating a pinched nerve.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, and so literally, like I'm sitting, I can't even move for a while, so it was swelling and everything. So I think we had to do it like a week later.
Oh, shoot.
Yeah.
Well, the fight sequence is, again, that's my favorite scene in the whole movie. The movie's a blast to watch, and it's got some really great stunts in it, and it's got some great action pieces, but definitely your fight with Stallone is my favorite. So I was just really impressed with how much of it definitely looked like you on screen. So.
And I remember, I knew the stunt guy for a while because I'd worked with him again. Billy, I just can't remember his last name.
I was gonna say, did you work with him again on any other productions?
Yeah, I worked with him on another production, and I'm trying to. I can't remember which production that was.
Gotcha.
A lot of movies.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, movies, singing, all kinds of stuff. How much was on the page versus what ended up in the movie? Were you given any freedom to improvise?
Yeah,
nice.
Definitely. Yeah, right. Definitely. I think that what you saw down there in that cave was a mixture of script and.
The most tense aspect of the film to me is the arguing among the villains. I think it just brings a sense of realism. I mean, these guys are all horrible people, and to see them just constantly arguing, for me, I don't normally see that in movies, and I thought that was one of the more unique qualities of the film. How were all the actors portraying baddies able to sync up to such a level of disdain? Did you recognize that immediately, like at a table read, or is that something you guys just started kind of conditioning after a while? Because it's fantastic in the movie.
No, I think it basically happened during the movie. I mean, I actually felt it, on and off the set.
Mm-hmm.
My fellow antagonistas.
Yeah.
In some respects, I like seem competitive, and we're trying to flex their machismo.
Yeah, it did kind of come off like everyone was trying to one up each other, but I mean, for the audience, it worked. It was great.
Yeah, it was that way. I think to some degree, it definitely felt that way.
Yeah, well, I love the final product. It was great.
People love that movie.
Yeah, it's a blast to watch. I mean, that's the whole reason I'm doing this podcast episode. I mean, this is one of the things I really stress about this film. I don't want to call it a guilty pleasure, but it's one of the most fun movies you can watch with a group of friends. I mean, it's a movie you just really kind of scream and cheer at. It's a straight up popcorn movie. I love it, and I've been watching it for years. It's great. I love it.
You're making me want to rewatch it.
It's a blast, man. What kind of weapons training were you required to do for the role?
I'm trying to think, what kind of weapons training do we have to do for the role? Other than safety checks and stuff like that for the guns,
mm-hmm.
I don't really remember us doing much training.
You have that really great slow motion sequence where someone's running and you're shooting them, and I mean that's just a great scene to watch.
That was Max Perlich.
Okay.
He said, yeah, we were friends at the time. It was really funny.
That's funny.
Yeah, I mean, I knew him before the movie. It was like. Okay, cool.
One of your more famous lines, the "no bullets, bitch." I love that line only because once you realize that you were holding them at gunpoint with an emptied out clip, it just makes you just that more evil.
The thing is that I think it's really funny. That's what I do remember in the at the screening and stuff like that line, man, whatever you
It's an iconic line. I'm sure that got the audience really going. That's great. Were you surprised at the film's huge success? I think it ended up grossing like $255 million.
Yeah, I think like 300 million. I think.
Okay,
yeah.
gotcha.
But I'm not sure. Was I surprised? No, I'm never surprised that that a movie does well. I'm sometimes surprised when movies don't do well. Yeah, I mean, I thought the concept. I thought Rennie Harlan and Stallone and that kind of movie.
Mm-hmm.
I just felt like it would resonate. I mean, action movies with someone with a gun in their hand, I think those sell around the world.
Mm-hmm.
And Stallone is a worldwide star. It's always nice to do something that people see.
Yeah.
Because you work hard on films, and you only get to play a character once, and you always hope that a lot of people see it.
To be talking about it years and years later, like almost 30 years later.
Memorable work.
Yeah.
It's something that I've always strived to do.
The last question I had for you, do you wear it as a badge of honor having such a cool death sequence in the movie?
Well, okay, so a little side note. I lived.
Wait, what?
Yes.
Okay.
When they make it to the top of that thing, right?
Okay.
I come crawling out with blood dripping out me. Okay?
Okay.
But they cut it.
Oh, get out of here.
Yeah.
Dude, I never knew that. Now I'm totally upset that we've never gotten a Cliffhanger 2 or like The Revenge of Kinnett or something. Like that I will never watch this movie the same way again. That's fantastic. That's the best way to end this interview. Now that I know that you're still out there causing trouble, looking for those cases. I love it.
I probably bled to death.
Yeah, or froze to death. So
I mean, it did make a difference. I mean, even if no matter what I would have done to them, there's no way I would have been strong enough to do anything.
Yeah, I mean, you're walking around with an icicle hole in your body.
I mean, that's hardcore death.
Yeah, it's a little rough to get past. But hey, Leon, I just wanted to say thank you so much. I really appreciate it. I know you're super busy. Thank you so much for taking time to answer a couple of questions for me. I love this movie. It's a classic action movie, in my opinion. I've been watching it for years, and I just can't thank you enough for taking time. Best success to you in your acting and your singing career.
Thanks.
So I really appreciate it, man. Is there anything you want to promote before we take off?
Next thing I'm in is City on the Hill on Showtime.
Okay.
Premieres 28th with Kevin Bacon and Gladys Hodge. City on a Hill.
City on a Hill, Showtime. All right, I'll look out for it.
All right, you take care. Thanks.
All right, take care. Thank you. Once again, big thanks to Charlie Oshweet, Brandon Davis, and Adam Ferguson for joining me and waxing philosophical about Cliffhanger. A huge, huge thanks to star Leon for taking the time to answer all of my burning questions. And finally, I could not do any of this without the help of producer Gigi Lage and her tireless work she's put into the making of this podcast. If you liked what you heard on today's episode, please subscribe to the channel and follow us on Facebook and Instagram. Until next time, stay sick.